So this has to be clear. In the first Apple Valley Police Department press release, this was released at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on January 17, 2015, 2.5 hours after the bodies were found. And they are treating this as suspicious deaths. Saturday, January 17, 2015, at approximately 12:56 p.m., Apple Valley police officers went to the residence on Ramsdale Drive on a report of dead bodies inside the house. The initial responding officers located 3 deceased persons inside the residence. The investigation into the matter is ongoing. Agents from Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are assisting Apple Valley Police Department detectives in the investigation. One day later, January 18th at 11:40 a.m. Central Standard Time, here is where they start accusing David. On Saturday, January 17, 2015, at approximately 12:56 p.m., Apple Valley police officers went to a residence on Ramsdale Drive on a report that a person checking on the residence saw dead bodies inside. Responding officers found the bodies of 2 adults and 1 child deceased inside the residence, the result of an apparent murder-suicide. At this time, it is believed there is no threat to public safety. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office is working to positively identify the 3 deceased. Again, not positively identified until January 21st, but we're already accusing David of the crime. They haven't even done the autopsy on David yet, and they're already accusing him of this crime. David's autopsy will begin about 10 minutes later at 11:50 a.m., January 18th. Investigation into this matter is ongoing. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Dakota County Sheriff's Office are assisting the Apple Valley Police Department with the investigation. So now we have the Sheriff's Office also assisting. All right, now the third press release is January 19, 2015 at 12:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now this one gets a little more in-depth, pretty much the same thing. Responding officers found the bodies of 2 adults, 1 child deceased in the residence, the result of an apparent murder-suicide. Police located a firearm at the scene and have determined the cause of death to be gunshot wounds. This is an isolated incident and the public is not in danger. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office is continuing its work to positively identify all of the deceased. No positive ID yet. Investigation into the matter is ongoing. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Dakota County Sheriff's Office are assisting the Apple Valley Police with the investigation. So by the 5th press release, now we got names: David Crowley, 29, Kamel Crowley, 28, Rania Crowley, 5, all dead of gunshot wounds. Investigators found a handgun next to David's body. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner determined Kamel and Rania died of a homicide, while David Crowley died of suicide. So here it is. By January 23rd, we see what the Medical Examiner's Office has determined. Now we need to understand why they determined that. That's going to be our focus here today. They also say, while this remains an ongoing investigation, updated information is being made available about the incident. The 3 bodies were found in close proximity of each other in the front room of the residence. There were no signs of intrusion or struggle. There's also no sign that they found a bullet hole right above their heads, but we'll save that for later. Investigators have determined the last verified activity from the residence happened in late December. Investigators seized several personal electronic devices and computers from the residence. The Dakota County Electronic Crime Scene Task Force is completing forensic analysis of the devices. The analysis of these devices could provide important information about this incident, said Apple Valley Police Captain John Bermel, but that analysis will take time. The investigation into this matter is ongoing. Minnesota BCA is still involved. Dakota County Sheriff's Office still involved, assisting with the Apple Valley Police Department. January 23rd, 2015 at 10 a.m. When you focus on the documents, you get some clear facts. You have clear questions, but clear facts. Sometimes those facts are just questions. They're interchangeable, apparently. Alright, so let's go through this. The medical examiner examining the bodies. Okay, so the final diagnosis of the medical examiner's report stated Rania was shot in the right parietal scalp. The bullet went through her brain and exited the left side of her scalp. 3 gray-colored metal projectile fragments were found in her left temporal skull. The trajectory was described as leftward, downward, and backward. It looks like Rania was shot from behind on the right side of her head, next to the ear. The range at which she was shot could not be determined, but there was no suit or stippling, which would have indicated murder at close range. The final autopsy report, initially dated February 6, 2015, with signatures dated March 16, 2015, stated Rania was found partially decomposed with moderate decomposition. Livor, discoloration of the skin, and rigor mortis, stiffness of death, were absent. Even so, according to the external examination, early to moderate decomposition is evidenced by skin discoloration, marbling, blistering, slippage, and partial mummification of the face, left hand, and feet. Examiners also observed evidence of post-mortem animal scavenging. The evidence was the absence of the right arm. Possibly related to animal scavenging was the jagged and tattered skin and soft tissue defect where Rania's arm would have connected to her shoulder. According to this report, the 10x8 defect exposed the glenoid fossa and the lateral right 1st through 4th ribs. Also observed was a fracture in the 3rd rib and numerous short white hairs adherent to the pants. Kamel's autopsy began with Assistant Medical Examiner Mitchell Murray as the pathologist. Detectives Sean McKnight and Brian Bone observed the autopsy. Kamel was identified by dental radiographs and tattoos. Kamel weighed 85 pounds. Lividity, discoloration, and rigor, stiffness, were not recognized on her body. Body cavities contained small amounts of decomposition fluid. Kamel was shot twice, with both entrance wounds in the left posterior parietal region of the skull. The trajectories of the 2 bullets were listed as left to right and back to front. However, in the external examination, the trajectories for both bullets are listed as left to right and front to back. Large skull fragments are also mentioned. The scalp was absent according to the report. The missing portion of Kamel's head was most likely the right side of her skull. All that remained of her head were portions of the posterior skull, specifically most of the left occipital bone and portions of the adjacent left parietal bone. No brain tissue remained in the skull. Irregular bony and soft tissue margins were consistent with canine scavenging. According to the report, most of the head and the hands are missing. Many of the bones found were consistent with fragmented digit bones. The distal aspects terminate with absence of the hands. Bone fragments, wavy dark hair, and white cotton debris were all mentioned under the internal evidence section of the report. Amongst this bony material, the report continued, are 2 mandibles. One shows numerous restorations. In addition, there are 2 fragments of bone with 2 and 4 teeth. Multiple irregular bone fragments range from 1.2 to 8 centimeters in size. Regarding animal scavenging of Kamel's neck, the forensic pathologist wrote, the anterior musculature, hyoid bone, and laryngeal cartilages are absent due to apparent animal scavenging. All that remained of the neck was the exposed and intact cervical vertebral column. There is extensive bloating, the report continued, skin and slippage, and discoloration of the body surfaces. Hair was found on Kamel's right sock and the anterior left leg. The left sleeve of Kamel's sweater was frayed. Decomposition fluid and apparent blood were both present on the sleeve. Underneath the sweater was a gray state t-shirt soaked in decomposition fluid and blood. At 11:40 a.m. January 18, 2015, the Apple Valley Police Department released their second press release. This one states David Kamel and Rania Crowley died as a result of an apparent murder-suicide. This is interesting because David's autopsy hadn't begun yet, and the Hennepin Medical Examiner's Office was still working to positively identify the 3 deceased. David's autopsy began 10 minutes later at 11:50 a.m. The pathologist was Jessica Lelinski, who was once again assisted by Mitchell Murray. Detective Sean McKnight and Detective Brian Bone were both present during the autopsy. Due to the condition of David's head, the pathologist was unable to determine the entrance, pathway, and trajectory of the gunshot wound. They did determine the bullet exited through the left parietal bone and scalp. External beveling, external cone shape, and radiating linear fractures were visible on the left parietal bone. The posterior calvarium and overlying scalp were visible, as was posterior neck skin, soft tissue, and the cervical spine. The scalp had patchy, short, brown hair. Skull bone fragments ranging from 1.5 to 14.5 centimeters are mentioned in the internal evidence section of this report. The skull bone fragments articulate well with each other and with the remaining calvarium of David's head. Separately, a non-articulating 8.5 centimeter maximum dimension skull bone fragment has a rounded defect along with one edge with apparent internal beveling. The bony skeleton, the report continued, apart from previously described skull injuries and artifact due to animal scavenging, is intact and normal. The gunshot wound was 2 by 1 centimeters and was a regular edge. The bullet was not recovered at that time. They would not find that bullet until a month later, only because they were notified about it. Examined separately from David's body at the time of the autopsy was a maxilla with well-preserved teeth. The report also claimed Palaio was responsible for the absence of David's brain, the majority of his skull, neck skin, neck soft tissue, neck muscles, the hyoid bone, thyroid cartilage, the tongue, the larynx, the trachea, and the thyroid. The remaining bone fragments are irregular and of unidentifiable origin or consistent with phalanges. Regarding the missing right hand, the distal right forearm shows intact, smooth ends of the radius and ulna and irregularly contoured soft tissue, muscle, and skin. The left hand was mummified. In one crime scene image, the index finger of the left hand is pressing against the thumb. According to David's autopsy, dried drips of red, brown, blood-like material are on the dorsal left hand between the thumb and first finger. Additionally, early to moderate decomposition is evidenced by skin discoloration, marbling, slippage, blistering, and mummification of the left hand and feet. David weighed 128 pounds and was identified by dental records and body tattoos. Medication and food were not found in his stomach. Now, I also wanted to take a few minutes to thank all of the many researchers out there, all of the people who have been helping us on the sidelines, out in public, in their spare time, praying for us, wishing us well thoughts, encouraging us. I thank all of these people who are seriously trying to get to the truth, regardless of your view, regardless of what you think happened, regardless of what you think about the people who are researching it. The main thing here that everyone needs to understand, and a lot of people do understand it, and a lot of people still act like they don't, but they do. There is no evidence that will conclusively prove that David Crowley is guilty. There was no reason to close this case and claim that David Crowley was guilty. In this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. David Crowley was never proven guilty. How did we get here? In the beginning, you had many people telling us there's nothing to see here. Pay no attention to the man behind that curtain. It doesn't exist. It's not there. Life is good. Enjoy your family. Enjoy life. Forget about this case. La la la. It's an illusion. It's gone. Puff puff pass, right? and it's gone within the blink of an eye. Real life doesn't work like that. And a case like this cannot work like that. When a child is involved, you have to take this seriously. When two young people are involved, these people were under 30 years old. These are babies. These are what I would call babies. They're very young people who were doing a lot of interesting things. These were bright people. These were not mentally ill people. These were people who had a lot of things going for them. and might have had a lot of targets on their back. Those targets will be exposed, whatever it is. We are dealing with multiple things now. It's not just about who did this. It's not just about why they did this. Mr. Alam told Sidra's friend the one thing he doesn't understand is the why. We spoke with Russell. Russell says what we need to understand is the how. I want to understand it all. I can't have one without the other. Gotta have it all. Gotta have the full picture here. Now, regardless of what we might think about the Apple Valley Police and the mistakes that they made, and there were many mistakes, it's not all of them who made the mistakes. Unless we're talking about the bullet hole in the living room ceiling. They all made that one. Nobody saw it. That's clear. If there was a photo of it, or if they noticed it in the corner of one photo that they took on January 17th when they found the bodies, if there is a photo that shows that there was a bullet hole in that ceiling, that's even worse, right? But at least it was there. So a few steps are being taken right now to get that answer, to get that photo. Because the police are telling us the photo is there. If we don't ask for it, if we don't request it, if we don't demand it, if we hit stone walls, if we hit brick walls, if we don't demand that we see it, and we shouldn't have to, by the way, but if we don't, we're never going to get the answer. We're never going to get that clear answer. And it's going to be in limbo. And we can't have that with this case. There's already too many things that we're never going to know. We know that. But they never talk about the things that we are going to know, and the things that we do know right now. And the most important thing, the one thing that counts, what proves David Crowley guilty? They can't answer the question. The answer is not a logical answer. It is a logical thing to ask the question. If you do not get a logical answer, what do? You keep searching, you keep digging. And I am encouraging everyone, keep searching, keep digging. What's different about this is we're doing a lot of this stuff public. Some might say that might hurt what we're doing. It might hurt the end result. I disagree. I think that's how confident we are in this, knowing that there is no proof that shows David Crowley is guilty. I'll give them everything. I'll let them know exactly what I'm doing. It's not just about who gets to know the truth. Who decides that? Who decides who gets to know what really happened and who doesn't? Who gets to tell us when to stop looking, when to shut up? Who has the right to stand in my way looking at this case? You don't. In this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you did. To me, you are innocent until proven guilty, or until you confess. We don't have a confession here. We don't have a suicide note. We don't have any indication that there was a suicide note, even though early media reports led us to believe that there was, and there wasn't. On and on and on. The narrative is slowly fading away. It's slowly going back into the darkness where it belongs, because the darkness is not truth. This official story just does not stand up. And we'll get there. Thank you for listening. Until next time.